are you doing on time, Katie? We went a little over there.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I want to make sure I don't go into the next person's time slot though.
Oh, you're okay. We'll bend accordingly. We're kind of fluid here, and it's we want to get the good stuff, the good conversation, more than we need to crunch the time. So go
Got
ahead
it.
and how do you want to share your screen, or did you want me to upload that file that you shared? I'll get it into the mural anyways for anybody to interact with later. But do you want to share your screen and do your?
I think I do just because I'll be flipping through pretty quickly. The
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
in.
it's kind of slide heavy, but I'm not going to use it all. So,
Okay, I'm gonna end my
okay,
share.
great, awesome. And I'm a bit bummed that Katha Lee is not on the call anymore. She was mentioning KaBoom and our Play Everywhere Design Challenge. I was like,
Yeah.
talk about that. I was so glad that she knew about it. Okay, can everyone see the PowerPoint now?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, great. So I am going to flip through pretty quickly because there's a lot here, and I think a lot has already touched on, like things that Bree was talking about and also what Kathy Lee was talking about really connect to some themes I want to touch on. So I won't spend too much time on this, but just a brief overview of kind of where we sit. I'll go into what KaBoom does in general. As an overview, we do grants. We're a grant making essentially organization around play spaces. We primarily have worked with playgrounds in the past, and we have multi-sport courts, adventure courses, some other versions of play spaces. And we also have these challenges, these grant challenges, including the Play Everywhere Challenge. This year is the Play Everywhere Design Challenge that we've done for 3 years with the Wilson Foundation in Southeast Michigan and Western New York. That aside, I'll go into kind of where we are right now as an organization. We've come a long way in the last couple of years to refocus on racial equity as a prime goal and something that we want to orient all of our work towards. So this is kind of touching on that. We know in general play is critical for physical, social, emotional health for kids. I think the next presentation will go into placemaking a bit, which is something we touch on a lot. So without places to play, kids are deprived of those opportunities. And essentially we see this as an equity issue. And some of these will kind of go into that, especially for kids of color. Play can be harder to come by. The way that a lot of communities are structured in terms of disinvestment, it's disproportionately affecting kids of color. So let's kind of skip ahead. Our goal, our vision is place-based equity. The way that we see the situation, 1 in 5 homes have parks within a half a mile, which we see as a goal that every kid should have access to a recreational space or center or park within a half a mile, but it's only 1 in 5. 45% of kids living in poverty are overweight or obese compared to 22%, which is obviously directly tied to play access and recreation. And related back to racial inequities, 40% of Black and Latino or Latinx youth, 2 to 19 are overweight compared with 20% of white youth. So this is an overview of those statistics. That's kind of what we're looking at and what we want to dig into and address with the way that we're restructuring. Touching a little bit on the history, which I think Bree had been touching on as well, is there is currently and also historically a lot of inequity, legally speaking, and socially and all of that around kids, especially kids of color, in recreational and public spaces. So this is kind of the landscape that we're coming into. This is a brief timeline I won't go through, but essentially things that folks on this call might be familiar with in terms of civil rights actions and progressions, but also there's so far that we still have to come in terms of bringing equity in public spaces. I will at the end also to highlight an article that one of our staff members just wrote recently about this kind of reality and looking at how Black kids still can't feel safe on playgrounds. There's still, as recently as 2012, 2014, Tamir Rice was shot and killed while he was in a public space. And so this is something that we take extremely seriously and are trying to address through our work in a more critical and focused way than we have in the past. So kind of as an overview, racial inequity shows up as the disinvestment that is largely in communities of colors that has made a path for lack of resources, fewer places to play, and more barriers to accessing that. So what we're looking to do is close that gap and create access all across all communities, specifically focusing on communities that have experienced this disinvestment and have more barriers. This again, I won't go into specifically, but kind of our history as an organization. Where it started from was actually an instance of inequity where two kids in DC tragically died while they were searching for a place to play. They were stuck in a car, and it was something that the founder of KaBoom took action on, and that's kind of where the organization came from. So these will be posted if folks are interested in more of the details, but this is essentially where we're coming from. So our goal, as I've said, is access and closing that inequity gap, that equity gap, I suppose, and also quality. So ensuring that we are providing high quality, customized playgrounds. The way that our model works, which I'll go into, is gaining input from community along the process. And so that's something that's really important to us. So the access, as has been mentioned, bringing these resources in the form of a play space can increase overall economic prosperity in certain cases. It can really lift up kids and provide all these other opportunities to a successful, fulfilling sort of experience, or that is the goal. So we want to ensure that it's gone about in a way that is really bringing that quality. I'm going to go into our model just briefly because I think that does speak to what we actually do on the ground. And this again is speaking towards the playground specific work that we do, but I want to talk about the Play Everywhere work as well. I'll note here that this year we have shifted away from using volunteers because of the COVID pandemic. And so for the foreseeable future, we will not have volunteers on site, which has been the way that we've operated in the past. We've been doing these the installations professionally through our vendor. So this is how we have done it. Unfortunately, we aren't able to right now. So what we do is once we find a community partner and they apply and we screen them, we have a project manager typically go to this site and hold what we call a design day or design event. So kids get to, as you see here, design their playground. They get to draw what they want to see. It's this really engaging, fun day. Adults also have a portion where they can give their input. And then our project manager takes these ideas to our vendor Landscape Structures, and they incorporate these elements into 3 proposals for a playground design. Excuse me. And then the community is able to choose from one of those 3. So it's very much their input is incorporated, and the things that are important to the community are highlighted in the final product that they get. And then about 8 weeks after that is the build day. This is traditionally what it's looked like. Up to 200 volunteers are on site putting together the playground. This is from the funding partner, the community partner, a few KaBoom staff members, and the installers and such. So it's supervised, but it's a super engaging process that involves all of these folks to really put it together, which has been proven in our experience and some data that there is a community investment in a way that would be different if this is installed professionally, kind of detached from the community. So this is why we've incorporated this kind of model. So as a before and after, this is an example that this was the site where the playground was desired, and just 6 hours later, it was turned into this beautiful playground. So it's this kind of transformative thing. It's can be very powerful. I unfortunately have not been able to attend since I started my time at KaBoom right before the pandemic hit. But this, there's so many countless, we've done over 3,000 playgrounds across the country, and this is what that experience can look like. So that is KaBoom kind of in a nutshell and where we have been and are today. I'm gonna share a different screen now to get at what I also wanted to touch on. Can people see this now? Should say Play Everywhere. Design. Okay, great. Thank you. So this is this other grant program that we've done for a number of years now, and I think it's most relevant to you all in Southeast Michigan. So the Wilson Foundation has dedicated around $1 million each time for a number, the number has changed, but for a number of grantees. I think the examples are really powerful to kind of explain what Play Everywhere is, because it's somewhat ambiguous. The idea is that communities are coming up with their own unique ideas to bring access to play in areas where kids and families are already spending time, but there isn't access to play. So that can be at the laundromat or a bus stop or an area of the downtown where kids need to go with their parents, but there isn't anything for them. And so over the years, we've seen so many really awesome creative ideas come through, and we funded dozens at this point. And so we've been able to see them come to fruition. Here are a few examples that kind of get it at, this is the full gallery. But what I think is so powerful is that it is personalized to the community. So it's something that comes from the community. There's a great example here in Mount Clemens. It involved a mural as well as playful elements, and the mural had community-specific and historical elements of Mount Clemens incorporated into it, which we found very powerful. There have been ideas this year that I've particularly been drawn to that have incorporated ideas of racial equity, especially in the current kind of climate, that feeling really powerful. So I think it's this really kind of unique situation. You can see just as simple as a mural or a way to make a crosswalk a little bit more engaging. These can be a whole range of ideas and scope. I see a chat just in case. Okay. Thank you for that note that I just received. So folks can definitely explore this website on their own as well. As a lot of these have not come to fruition yet, but you can see kind of where ideas have started. And this is just another example of our grant making process. We're also engaging with groups in Philadelphia and across the country for Play Everywhere. But this I felt was most relevant to, obviously, to Michigan. And the last thing I was going to raise, which I mentioned earlier, is this article from Sienna, who I work with directly, about parks not being public and equal until Black kids belong. I find it really powerful. I encourage everyone to check it out. But essentially speaking to the institutional racism we feel at all levels, especially in public spaces, and something that we're still committed to. And I guess in conclusion, we are figuring out how to adapt to a lot of things this year. I think as a lot of folks feel, 2020 has thrown in a lot of new factors and elements that have created some opportunity. As I spoke about with Monica and Jim a few weeks ago, there's some new room for opportunity and also some ways that we really have to shift. So there's so much to talk about, but I want to open it up for some more discussion or any sort of questions.
Thank you so much, Katie. That was a really powerful presentation, and it was great to see, how you're thinking and evolving along the way with, with your Rice, and then with the founder, and how he was inspired to begin this organization. It just seems like you're really you really have a depth approach going on, and still evolving with this. And I think there was a question, and also I just wanted to introduce, we have a Placemaking US forum that's going to start, but a lot of that focus is around kids in cities. So maybe we can just crash this all together, and they're joining us, and now that we're in an open discussion, I'm sure that they're excited about that conversation. And Lair, did you have a question for Katie?
Blair did message me privately, but just about something else. So I'm not
Okay. Well, I saw his hand raised, so anyways,
sure. Oh, I see.
just go back over to we'll just go back into this mural here. And does anyone have questions for Katie? Okay. Well, let's just start our placemaking US and maybe start with a kids in cities focus to build off of that. Oh, one thing I had a question for you, Katie. Do you find that cities somehow, I know that this happens here in our downtown, and we did the Play Everywhere challenge, and sometimes people associate KaBoom with playgrounds, but you also do the Play Everywhere, which is non-conventional play. And does that happen? Is that a pattern that you find?
What, the pattern of what, sorry?
Of folks associating your organization with playgrounds versus the Play Everywhere non-conventional, just play in general in cities. Seems like Play Everywhere challenges kind of evolved into. And has that been a difficult, is it like an association that you have to work through, or?
Definitely, yes, especially when describing Play Everywhere, because a lot of folks are like, great, so this is the playground we want. And so we have to shift expectations. But, Blair actually just asked, does KaBoom consider drums to be playground equipment? No, I mean, I can see where that might be relevant.
This is politics there, Katie. We didn't want to get you too involved in dysfunction, but we have some, go ahead.
Well, so it's such a tricky line, but looking for anything that's not a traditional play structure with slides and things to climb on that are more conventional or come from that sort of vendor. But anything that's playful is totally valid for that sort of idea.
Awesome.
Is Blair still on?
Blair, do you want to unmute yourself there? You want to speak? I can't unmute him for some reason. I don't know why. Okay, anyways, that's I think that's more of a political question we're dealing with down here. All to be discussed at another time, but we had a drum installation at the Hidden River Park. I'm trying to find a picture here, but it was unrelated to the KaBoom grant that we did previously for Hidden River Park. So it caused some concern because it was classified as playground equipment, which kind of the zoning and all of that was something, but it was not. This was not related to KaBoom at all. So, okay, Ryan. Anybody have any questions for Katie from the placemaking group? Or do you want to introduce what you guys are doing around plays and play in cities and your Kid Cities pilot while Katie's still with us? I know she's got another deadline.
That sounded incredible, and we've been watching KaBoom and learning about all of the great experiences, and it was really great to hear from you directly and see all those smiling faces. I think Tina Govan is here from Raleigh, and she has done some really exciting work around kid-friendly cities in her own experience over her career. She's been getting really involved in Placemaking Europe and the groups that are forming around kid placemaking over there. And she's helping us lead up efforts here on kid placemaking. So she's going to kick things off with a really interesting presentation.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is all very exciting, and it's wonderful to see how you engaged kids in getting their ideas, and just all the things you said were right on about access to play has been a big problem, I think, in a lot of cities. I think that, you know, the presence of kids in play is a real sort of barometer of the health of the city as well. And too often, I think kids end up being taken out of the city, or families feel like, you know, when it's time to have children, they have to move to the suburbs, that the city isn't a place for children. So that's been something that I've been working to, you know, improve over my lifetime since I raised my family downtown, and I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. So I'm ready to go anytime, or unless y'all want to have more discussions.
Yeah, well, are you gonna share your screen?
Yeah, I can share my screen. What I was gonna do is start off with, you know, like I said, I raised my kids downtown Raleigh, and I started documenting their unstructured play that started in a creek across from the elementary school, where they made sort of